Welcome back, everybody, to Fix Your BS, where BS stands for, as you know, belief systems, but can also stand for business systems or balance sheets. And as you know, we are always trying to go through, the internet looking for amazing individuals that are crushing it in one or more of the five categories or five pillars of life that we talk about, which are business, relationships, finances, health, and also belief. We have found another amazing individual that you guys need to know about, and he's going to teach you all sorts of great things. But we've got Michael Tucker today. Michael Tucker is creating unprecedented income and influence, and he knows how to do it because he has seen that it can take years to do. But he's found a way to shorten that time span to just days through his virtual event and digital marketing secrets. After generating over 30 million in profit over just 2 to 3 years for his clients, he is now ready to share his secret formulas for running successful virtual events and marketing tips with any online entrepreneur who's ready to grow their influence and their income. And who doesn't want to grow their influence and their income? That is today's currency. Influence is today's currency. So, Michael, thank you for being on the Fix Your BS podcast. Appreciate you being here.
Greg, so excited, my brother, to be on here with you all. I'm so excited to dive into deep conversations and see what epiphanies we can pull out of these stories that we go into today.
Oh, I love that, man. Epiphanies. I love that because that is what it's all about. When you get down into that moment of understanding, of clarity, it feels like an epiphany. And that's what we're all about talking, to our guests is trying to figure out how they came to that moment of the aha moment, the wow, I can't believe I didn't see that before. So we're going to talk a little bit about the nuts and bolts, but I want to learn a little bit about you and maybe some aha moments that you had because you've generated a lot of revenue for a lot of people, and people listening to this are looking for the aha moment. They're trying to figure out, how do I get to that next level? What's the next step? Tell us a little bit about your journey and when you had those moments, or if you had those moments.
Yeah, there's one moment in particular that really sticks out to me and was a big aha moment. And this was right when I was getting out of college, at 21, 22 years old, was getting out of college, didn't have much finance, to back my name up, right? I didn't have much money, as most college kids don't when they just get out of school. I just gotten married to my high school sweetheart, and we just went and spent all of our money on a honeymoon in Bali. Now, it wasn't a smart decision, but it was a fun decision for sure. And so we just got married, just got out of college. And so I found myself asking, Michael, what am I going to do? What is that thing? And I loved business. I loved serving and doing mission work and all these different things. But I was like, what am I going to do now? I have a wife. I got to provide. And so I went on this journey to find the thing, as a lot of us do when we are just starting out in life. And so I tried everything and anything to make a dollar. I tried stock trading. I tried e-commerce. I had a kettle corn shop. Like I tried everything you can imagine. Okay. It's kind of funny, but I tried everything. And eventually I just found myself beating my head against the wall because nothing was working. Right. And this is kind of where the first epiphany came in. I would jump into something, into a business, and then I would find 2 or 3 months down the road, oh, this ain't working. And I would switch lanes. I would switch avenues. Right. And some of you all, you may have been there too. You may have be a serial entrepreneur, but really all you're doing is jumping from one venture to the next, not really committing to one thing. And that was
That's
me.
so,
Right. And
that is,
so
dude, Michael, that is so common with people that I work with. I consult businesses and entrepreneurs, and one of the biggest mistakes is people try to open up a second location or they try to jump into something else because they think this thing's moving. This thing that they have is doing pretty well. So let's just jump over here to this other
right.
totally unrelated thing. I've been in that situation as well, but go ahead, man. That's common.
No, and that's good. I mean, I think it's the world is all you need passive income. You need multiple streams of income. Listen, I heard somebody say this, and I'm not going to take credit for it, and I don't know who it was, but I just heard it recently. Somebody said seven streams of income is not to make you rich, it's for the rich, right? Because you
Mm.
always hear seven streams of income is what you need to be a millionaire, but no, no, no. It's not to make you a millionaire. It's what the millionaires use once they've hit that. And so for me at the time, I was bouncing from thing to thing to thing, like I said, and I was so frustrated. And then one day, one of my friends came up and said, Michael, you should try real estate. Now, this conversation is not about real estate today, but I said, hey, I've been trying everything anyways. I might as well try this. And so, with little to no money to my name, he coached me through how to do this. And it was really this time when I had the epiphany of like, if this is gonna work, I have to work. If I want to see this through, I have to do something different. And so, long story short, we got into real estate, at a pretty young age, and flipped my first house, and I was on cloud nine, right? As like when you're 22, 20, 21 years old, you're like, and you got properties, like you're just on a high. And so that was me. I actually took some, and this is a little tip and maybe a life lesson for you all. I was so excited and so amped up that I was taking action off of emotions and not
Mm.
principles, right? I was letting my emotions decide what I was doing versus the principles. And so, long story short, got in real estate. I was having a lot of fun, and I ended up losing 20 to $30,000 within the first like 12 months of me being in real estate. Although there was some highs and I was excited, I got these properties. I let what I was feeling inside my heart dictate what I should have been doing with my hands, right? And so that was a big wake up call for me. And then, Greg, this is where the epiphany moment really comes in place. Is I found myself in the same exact position I had months and years back, saying, "This isn't working. What am I going to do?" And then one day, because I bought this house, it didn't do too well. And when my mom had a clothing store, and so I walked in the clothing store, I walked in the back room, and I had my head low because she could tell I was, in a rough spot. I was in college, I didn't have any money, and so I was usually using debt to get all these properties, and I just lost all this money. And she could tell I was in a bad state of mind, and she said, "Michael, do you want to continue doing this gig? Do you want to keep doing real estate?" And it was at that moment I was like, you know what? I'm going to see this through no matter what. I don't know what it was. It was just like a light bulb in my head that day. I guess it just took somebody asking me, Michael, are you sure you really want to do this? Like, are you want to continue down this road? And it just took that for me in my head to say, Michael, the reason why maybe you haven't been successful or succeeding in any of those other avenues was just because you didn't commit long enough. And so I told my mom that day, I said, listen, I said, I'm gonna see this through no matter what. Yes, I'm gonna push through. I said it may take me 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I don't know. I'm just gonna commit and get good at this one thing. And that's what happened. We pushed through. It wasn't pretty at first, but I decided to commit first so I could conquer later. And that's so many people aren't committing to one thing. And I would encourage you here, find one thing you can get really good at. One thing. And it may not be 10,000 hours. People say you need to have 10,000 hours of experience in something to be a professional. Hey, that's not always true. If you're doing 10,000 hours of something the wrong way, that doesn't make you a professional. But find something you can get really good at, you could perfect, and you can become skillful at. And that's what I did. And that was the biggest epiphany moment for me, Greg, was like, hey, maybe these avenues and these vehicles work. Maybe I'm just not working long enough. Does that make
Mm.
sense?
No, it makes a ton of sense. And that's one of the principles I teach with a lot of my students in business. I work with a lot of service-based regional businesses. I know so many people are focused on online and trying to build businesses online, but the service-based business needs to have their things set up online, but they don't need to reach necessarily
Right.
people all across the country. They need to reach people locally. And I work a lot with them, and I talk to them about committing for the long term, because shiny object syndrome is a real thing, and it's a thing
For
that you're
sure.
talking about that I've done in the past where, ooh, this is going okay, or it's not going like I thought, so let me jump ship and flip to another lane. The problem with that is people get confused about who you are and what you're an expert in, and like you said, it might take 10,000 hours. Well, you could also learn from people who have already been there, so you can shorten that gap. And
Yep.
that's one of the benefits of getting a coach or hiring someone to teach you the ins and outs who already has the 10,000 hours or already became the expert. And so, that's one of the things obviously that you became an expert in figuring out how to do virtual events. And, so how did you come to the conclusion of, man, I'm going to go into virtual events, and how are those better than in-person events? Like
Yeah.
what?
Great,
How does that
great
work? How did
question.
you
I
get there?
mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I left a big part of out of my story because I want to hit that epiphany that was really big for me. But during this time, one thing I did not mention was that I not only use debt to get into real estate, but I use my skills. And so when this individual came up and said, Michael, you should try real estate. I told him, I said, I don't have money. And he's like, I'm going to show you how to use other people's money. And I said, well, I'd love to learn how to get into real estate. Is there a cost for coaching? Like, he's like, yeah, obviously there's a cost. And so what I did at the time was I said, oh, hey, I don't have any money. How about we barter services? You coach me in real estate, and at the same time, I'll help you in your business. And that was one of the best decisions I've ever made,
Mm,
bartering my labor to get this real estate coaching, because in the background I was working in this individual's online business, helping him with his systems, his marketing, his operations. I was a one-man team. He was just starting his business, and so for him this was like awesome free labor. It was amazing for both of us. He had my skills and my labor, but then at the same time I was getting all this invaluable information. But it was during that time in that barter, that partnership, which that's a lesson in itself, right? If you don't have resources, ask, hey, how can I make this work? Not, oh man, I can't make this work, but how can I make this work? And that's what we did. And so that was for me the time when I was like, man, I really love marketing, because we were like, hey, how are we going to grow his business? Because I was in charge of growing his business online now. And so for me, we started testing out virtual events specifically. The first one was ugly. The first one was not, I'm going to be honest, wasn't all that profitable and all that successful. But what I learned was through virtual events, if you do them right, it doesn't matter if you're a service-based business, a software business, a coaching business. If you do it right, you can build a whole lot more trust than any other marketing method that I've used up until this time in my life. And so that's why I love it. And that's why I believe virtual events are one of the best ways to farm new leads and get new sales in your business, because you can build some massive trust. But that's how I got into virtual events. And that's a short story of how I had this epiphany. I was in the grind there in his business. I said, what am I going to use? And after some research, virtual events, I fell in love with.
That's what something you just mentioned is so important too. We talk about being resourceful. And a lot of times people think, like you said a minute ago, well, I don't have any money. Well, money is a resource. So is time, so is knowledge. There's other resources that you have potentially available. And if you're really truly passionate about something, you mentioned that not only being resourceful, but if it didn't work the first time, who cares? What did you learn about it so you can move on to the next and figure out you know, what worked so you can say, is this moving us in the direction that we're trying to get to or not? And if it is, then how can we make it better? So, um, now we're talking about virtual events. So tell me like what makes a good virtual event? Like what are the key components? If someone listening right now said, I want to get new clients, I want to get more attention, and I want to do it in a virtual event type of way, what are some key components that they need to put in place in order to make sure that that virtual event converts properly or converts well for them?
Right. Great question. There's many different types of virtual events. There's different ways to run them, different ways to build them out. But I'll say this, every virtual event that I've been a part of that has these few things, I don't know what happened to my light there in the background, but these few things is the most successful. Number one, those that have the right energy and enthusiasm do the best. What do I mean? When you show up to a room, whether it's
Mm,
in person, virtual, and you show up with passion, you show up with energy, you're going to have way better results than someone who does not, right? That's just common sense. But what I've seen is the most successful events that I've ran and that I've been a part of, the host, the client, whatever you want to name it, the speaker shows up with high energy and it's just contagious. So we tell all of our clients that, hey, if you're going to come in here and you're going to speak monotone, you're not going to be like conversing with people a lot. Like it's not going to work. It's not going to, you have to show up on camera and be ready. And listen, you don't have to be an extrovert, but you do have to have passion for what you're about to share. So that'd be number one. Number two is every virtual event needs engagement. You have to have engagement in the chat or engagement with people on the screen because if they're not engaged, guess what? They're going to be, this isn't in person. This isn't like they're sitting in a conference room with you. They're going to be doing the dishes. They're going to be changing a diaper in the backgrounds. But if you can keep them engaged in the chat or on the screen or taking notes, you're going to have a lot higher chance of success with that virtual event. And lastly, there's probably a few other things I could talk about, but lastly, I would say this is build an event with your end buyer in mind. So many people run events and it's all about me, me, me. They spend 30 minutes talking about themselves, their accolades, and then they don't really give out any value. Show up, give value for the people in your care, and build out an event with them in mind. Meaning, how can you use that event to get them from where they are to where they want to be, and how can you help them get there, get closer to that goal? So I'm just making this up. If you're a real estate coach, which is what we were doing at the time, real estate education, we would say, hey, what is the end goal? What do these people want? Well, they want to figure out a way to build passive income through rentals, right? They want a extra income stream for their family. And so we would have to build out content during that live event that was virtual, that virtual live event that would help get them closer to that goal. And once people seen that you were there to help and to serve, and you could help them get closer to their goal, that's when they'll buy into you and your products. That's when they'll buy into you and your services. And so those are just three things I think every virtual event needs. Greg, I don't know if you've ever used virtual events, but those are crucial for me.
No, I totally agree. And I've been on a lot of virtual events as well, especially the energy and enthusiasm part. You actually have to be, so I do a lot of professional speaking also. And when you're speaking professionally, yes, you want to bring energy and enthusiasm and expertise and all these great things. But people are sitting there in the audience and you've got them held a little more hostage and captive than if they're at home and they can get
Right.
distracted by the TV or their cat or their kids or whatever. So I think that being number one that you mentioned is so huge. It's to keep people engaged and have the excitement in it. I think it has to be more than even when you're on stage somewhere to keep them captivated.
Right.
But all three of those things are huge. You have to add a ton of value, engagement. Hey, type of one if you agree, type of two if you disagree. Little stuff like that makes people want. And what people don't realize too is when you are on the front end, meaning the education side of those events, um, that gives you data too. You can go back through the chat and get the data of, oh, how
Yeah.
many people were responding, how many people were, giving me information about the questions I was asking. So, man, those are huge, huge tips. Those three tips right there. Now, tell me a little bit more. Like, if somebody wanted to do a virtual event, how could somebody start utilizing, their actual audience that they currently have in order to improve what you call the three I's: influence, impact, and income, through a virtual event like right now? If they wanted to start one, where would they even begin? Could they hire
Yeah,
you? I
great
guess
question. Yeah, no,
hiring you
great.
is where they could go.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we have tons of resources and services we could offer, but I'll say this. I mean, you don't need me, right? If you're just starting out, you can make them as complex as you want, as simple as you want. I've already said that, right? But I would say if you're here and you want to just test it out and you want to get in there and you have an audience or you have a list of people, maybe this is what I say. Start out with a 1 hour, 90-minute webinar. And now these are virtual classes you can host in Zoom. Pull up a Zoom account. I think for a paid Zoom account is like $10, $20 a month. Just go create a Zoom account, 10, $20, and announce to your audience. And I'm making this super simple. Okay. I'm making this like way, way dumbed down, but just announce to your email list, to your audience, hey, I'm running a class on how to do X, Y, and Z this Thursday, this Friday, whatever time you choose. We recommend in the evenings if possible, but your audience is your audience, so you'll know them better. So just throw it out there and send the Zoom link, right? We could talk about funnels, we could talk about all these opt-in strategies, but I'm going to be honest, like just send the Zoom link out and send a few reminders. And then you'll see you may have 30, 40, 50 people show up and then show up and add value to them. Truly add value like we were talking about at the end, then just present your opportunity, your program, your service, your product, And you'll be surprised how many people move when you get to spend time with them in the room. But I'll say this because there's some of you all here, but say, Michael, I don't have a big audience. Listen, you don't need a lot of people in a virtual room, in a virtual event to make a lot of money, right? It's more about the quality of the people in the room versus the quantity of the people in the room. Now, if you can get both, awesome. If you can get quality and quantity at the same time, golden. But just know that you don't have to have a massive amount of people in your virtual room, in a Zoom or in a webinar for you to make profits. I mean, I've had 10, 15 people in a room and I've made $40,000, $50,000 myself. So just goes to show you that it's more about the experience you craft for those in the room versus them just getting a bunch of people there for the sake of getting them there. So does that make sense? I just want to make sure that's clear with you, Greg, and like with the audience that because I think that's a big limiting belief and it's something that stops a lot of people.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think so many times people try to hit the big home run right off the bat instead of starting small, let people know this is what I'm doing. Here's the end result that I'm looking to give as value for you. And if it's an alignment, then we can move forward with maybe an offer or something that you do. So I totally love that.
And I
Um,
mean, this is, oh no, I was going to say, and this is virtual events can be used for a lot of different things, everybody. Like I'm working currently with an agent right now. So I know not everybody's in the online entrepreneurship world, right? But I have some people that are life insurance agents and things of that nature in those realms. Like I have one individual getting 100 book calls a week for his agency. Like, and that just blows my mind. I'm like 100 book like that's a lot. That's a lot of book calls every single week, and I'm actually building that with him and for him, so I see the true numbers, and it's just like it just blows me away what you can do online. And so I'll say this, because I know you're about to go into another question, but don't think that you have to have some special niche because there's a lot of different ways you can run these events to be profitable for your industry. So I would love to know if you're watching on YouTube or you're watching at what niche do you serve in? Comment in the chat. I'm sure Greg would like to see that as well. That's some data for us. So
mhm.
drop in the chat, let us know what niche you serve, and then maybe I'll pop in the comments and reply back some ideas on how you can use virtual events to get some leads and sales in that industry.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I appreciate you saying that, and I totally agree. One of the things that we love doing is social media, just asking questions. Like if you're in this niche, what are you dealing with? Are you dealing with marketing problems, social media problems? Are you dealing with sales issues, HR issues? Like just what is it? And I think that's a thing that a lot of people forget is that the whole purpose of business is to serve an audience. It's to give, it's to add value, it's to serve, it's to improve the other people's lives in some way, shape, or form. So, always keep that number one. How can you add value? I think in today's society, we get caught up on, I'm doing this and I want it to happen quickly, and it's all about me. Like, no, 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 it's about them. Serve them. And there's a lot of ways that they can do it. And this is a really good one. I have used virtual events. I have used in-person events, and I can tell you, virtual events are a lot easier and a lot less
Much
expensive.
easier.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can
much,
tell you that.
much. But listen, they each have their own place. They each have their
They
own
do.
place. I mean, I'm going to be honest, there's some people, if you have regional, like you're more of a regional business and you serve like in-person events can crush it for you as well. They may be a little bit more pricey, right? Versus a $20 Zoom, you may have to spend a few hundred, few thousands of dollars, sometimes a little bit more than that. But a lot of people come to me, Greg, and they're like, so is it in person or virtual? It's both. It's both.
Oh,
Our
it
clients
can.
use both. You can use both. But if you want a cheaper option to start off with virtual events, so easy. Like, guys, we live in the best time in the world to make money online. Like, there's no better time. We've never, up until this day, there was no chat GPT, there was no Zoom. Like, we can run events and have people from Africa, from Europe, from Australia watching events. Like, what? Like I think people like they look back if like our ancestors seen what we had, they would be like, you guys have what? And so like just take advantage of what you have in hand. And most of the time, the things you need, I think we're look, you know just as much as I do, Greg. Like people are going around, what's the new marketing strategy? You already have what you need. Now it's just time to take action. You have what you need in your hands. It's just time to implement. And I say this quite a few times. If you take the right actions over the right amount of time, success is inevitable, right? If you take the right actions over the right amount of time and you refine your skill set, success is inevitable, right? For me, it may take me 6 months to hit the goal I want. For Greg, it may take 2 years. It's going to happen one day, but so many of us, we are taking the wrong actions over the right amount of time, or maybe we're taking the right actions over the wrong amount of time. So it's just like an equation. And so if you could do the right actions over the right amount of time, I promise you guys are going to get there. You're going to see the results. It may take a little longer for some than others, but I truly feel like, guys, you have all the tools in your hands. You have them there.
I think people have this doubt about themselves a lot, and this goes into the belief sign. Um, did you ever have time where you felt like, man, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I'm doing this wrong. Maybe can you tell me about any of that? I mean, obviously in the beginning when you were switching back and forth between different, you know, um, I don't know, industries and niches and different things, but anything after, you started to actually become really successful, what were there times where you had that doubt, that insecurity, that, imposter syndrome? Talk a little bit
Yeah,
about that because that's a big issue with a lot of people that I work with.
dude. Yeah, I would be lying if I say I didn't deal with that. And I think some of the biggest things that pop in my head when you ask that question was my um it was more of about the value of myself and my skills I was developing. That was what I had issues with. And so, if we were to fast forward this story, David, who was my real estate coach that I was bartering services with, we ended up growing his business just through virtual events to $750,000 in 10 months, which it was like mind blowing to me. Like it would have took me at the time, I was working as a part-time restaurant server, doing all these random side gigs I was telling you about. Like it would have took me years to make that amount, but we made that in 10 months. And so like that blew my mind. And so from there, we started getting really good at our craft and we started getting referred to people and referrals were coming in left and right. And then what I really struggled with was my worth at the time because I was charging dirt cheap. I was helping people make $100,000 in a weekend. I was helping people make $500,000 in a week, and I was charging 1,000, 1,500 bucks. And it was like, and that was all like an internal issue I was dealing with, and like a lack of self-confidence. And so for me, that was one of the big things. And I would say if you're here listening to this and you feel like you're worth more, but you just are scared to charge more, you're scared to show that. I'm here to tell you that what you have learned up to this point in your life, what you have been through in this point in your life, like that's there for a reason. And you are worth more than you probably ever imagined. So don't be afraid to charge premium or be premium. It may be scary because you may be like, well, I've only been doing this for a year, 2 years. Like that was me. I was like, I've only been doing this for a year. How can I charge 10, 20, $30,000? But just know your worth. And I promise you, it'll save a lot of heartache. It'll save a lot of energy and time. And you all deserve that. So that was one thing, Greg, I can think of at the top of my head. I don't know if that answered your question, but that just popped in my head randomly.
Well, no, it
Was
doesn't. It doesn't matter
yeah,
because it's a very good point. It's irrelevant whether it answered your question or not because that is so true. When you start getting results for people, you want to charge on the results. I mean, what result are you getting for these people? And a great example, I was working with a integrated regenerative medicine clinic. I own one of those, and I was working with this company, and I charged $20,000, and people, oh man, you charged 20 grand? Yeah, but
right.
they made 1.2 million
No brainer.
off of my 20 grand. So, okay, if they're gonna make $1 million, 20 grand's nothing. I should have charged $100,000 is what I should have
Right.
charged. And or I should have taken a part of the upside. That's
Yeah.
really would have been smarter because then I could have continued that over time. So people don't realize that. And it really is a form of self-worth. Because I remember when they paid the 20 grand, I was like, holy crap, what? And then I realized the results and they're over the moon and it would have been worth
Right.
way more than that to them. So everybody needs to understand, look at your market, look at what's out there. And I would rather have 10 clients paying me $100,000 than 100,000 clients paying me 10.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And so that was one thing. And I'll say a few other things that probably came my way. And this is a little different turn of a conversation here, but whenever I was first starting out, some of the things I struggled with was delegation, right, in a
Mm-hmm.
business, which is really important, Greg. You know this just as much as anybody. Delegation, in a business. And so for me, I got to this point to where not only was I struggling with maybe a little bit of the self-worth issues, self-confidence issues, but then I was like, okay, I'm not making enough, but I'm not confident enough in other people, right? And this was more of a selfish mindset, I guess you would say. I guess I didn't want to hire out anybody, mainly because I was like, they're not going to do it as good as me, right? And that's the wrong thinking. Like you're not going to grow, and I should have known that. You're not going to grow to the place you want to be, especially if you're a business owner and you want to grow like an actual corporation, a actual company. You can't do everything yourself. And so one of the biggest epiphanies there was realizing that, hey, if I continue on this route that I'm going down, I will be burnt out very, very fast, and I will probably be dead very, very fast because of the energy that this is sucking out of my life. And so, if you're here and you have a business, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to let go of some of the things in your business because, listen, to if you want to elevate, you have to delegate. And so I realized that too late. I wish I would have realized that earlier, but it's so powerful what can happen when you truly let go of some of the things in your business so you can focus on what you're good at and you can focus on your strengths. So, Greg, I know you coach people on that a lot, and I know that's probably an area you're more skilled at than myself, but that was another thing that I struggled with for so long, and it kind of went in with that self-worth, self-confidence issue there. But once I broke free of that, it was big burden on my shoulder.
Well, Mike, that's a very common thing, man. I'm telling you, people want to think that they are so unique with their issues. And in reality, man, these issues come back again. And what I'm hearing you say, because we are coming to the end of this, but you know, there's no better time than now. No better time to make money off the internet, to
Yep.
start live events, to start online events like you were talking about. But whatever matches the value you can add for your customer, which is what you were talking about. Have the correct energy and enthusiasm. Make sure you're doing some engagement, chat or on-screen engagement, and have the end buyer in mind and add value to them when you're doing your online or digital events. I loved what you said too about seven streams of income won't get you rich, but it is for the rich. If you listen to, and you're totally right, if you listen to most of the extremely successful people, they doubled down on one thing
Yep.
until it generated so much revenue that they were able to take that revenue and invest into something else.
Yep.
That is how you get up to that seven. So true. Um, Value of self worth, man, so important. Self work is so important. Make sure you're doing that. Charge based on results. Know what your strengths are, and then delegate the things that are not your strengths. These are all business principles that I'm sure you would say cost you a lot of time, energy, money, and heartache if you had known them sooner. And people can learn from people like you, and instead of experiencing that themselves.
Yeah, and it's easier said than done, right? Easier said than done. It's actually do this, and this is what I was mentioning to somebody recently. Don't just study the greats, but take action on the things you learned from them. And this is exactly what you were just saying, but I was just reiterating that's something that came up recently. So I've been studying a lot of past marketers and past business owners, but it's easy just to store all the information away, stick it in a shelf somewhere, stick it on a notebook, and never actually apply that to your life. So just ask yourself, what am I learning today? And it could be from me, it could be from Greg, could be from anybody. What am I learning today that I need to take immediate action on, fast execution on? And then if you can actually do that, you're going to be light years ahead of many other people who attend these webinars, attend these events, read these books, and never ever do anything. So, Greg, I've really enjoyed our conversation, man. I really have. This has been fun.
Yeah, well, you've had some amazing points. I love taking notes when we're doing interviews or talking with people. The best way to really learn is doing it. The second best way is learning from somebody who's already done it.
Yep.
And like you said, get the information, but then take action. The only way you're going to learn is through taking action. So amazing points, a lot of principles that you mentioned, and people need to pay attention to those principles. If anybody listening wants to find out more about Michael and what he's doing, you can go to Instagram, official Michael Tucker. You can go to Facebook, the official Michael Tucker, and you can go to LinkedIn, which is the official Michael Tucker. You can also click any of the links that we have listed below. He's helped people generate over 30 million in profit in over just a few years working with clients. So if you are interested in learning more about how to generate revenue online, you can actually look him up, go direct message him, or you can go to some of his programs. The program that he has, or the website, is thefunnelpros.com, thefunnelpros.com. Once again, click the link down below and find out more about Michael, his information. He's got a lot of great stuff on Instagram. That's how we found him. And really great dude, doing a lot of great things. You should do some of the things he talked about, man. Do some of the things he talked about. Go back through, listen to this again. You'll see a ton of principles and nuggets in this program. Michael, thanks for being here, man. I really appreciate you providing this info. And I look forward to putting some of these tactics and strategies back into my life. Sometimes we forget. So I learned something today as well.
All right. Thanks, man. Appreciate everybody. Looking forward to chatting with you. And I'll say this before we hop off here. Do Greg a favor, do the team. Listen, there's a team behind this podcast. Hit the subscribe button. He didn't tell me to do this. He did not pay me to do this. I know how much work and effort it takes to be on a show like this because I've done it for years. Share it with a friend, hit the subscribe button, leave an honest review. And it means more to us podcasters and us speakers more than anything ever. So, Greg, you did awesome. Thank you, man, for having me on the show. Everybody, leave him some love below, and we'll see you very soon. Peace.
I love that, Mike. I love that you did that because I'm about to do the sign off, which is what I say in the sign off every single time. And I love that you did that because people don't realize how much they can help their own small businesses or the people they follow simply by sharing and liking their content.
Yeah.
It drives me nuts when somebody comes and requests something and whatever. And I'm like, man, you don't even follow my stuff. Like, if you just follow my stuff, you're my friend, follow my stuff. So, everybody, thanks, Michael, for being here. Everybody, this has been another episode of Fix Your BS, where we talk about belief systems, but we also talk about businesses, finances. We talk about health. We talk about belief, but we also talk about things like relationships in order to improve your life and give you strategies and tactics to improve your life. Once again, if you know somebody that this episode will help, send this to them, share it with them. This is how we're able to help more people. You can subscribe, you can like, you can comment, you can share. We are always looking for feedback, how we can improve the value that we are giving to you as the end user. If you're in business, if you have questions, if you are a entrepreneur, or if you just have generalized information that you need help with, go ahead and let us know. We'd be more than happy to help you out. Thanks, Michael, again for being here. Everybody click his links below. This has been another episode of Fix Your BS. I look forward to sharing more value to you and help you build your dream life on your terms. Thanks, Michael. Talk soon.
All right. See y'all. Peace.